Hi, my name is Amanda, and this is Amanda Started a Podcast. This week, Ned joins me to talk about a whole lot of things. Ned, in addition to being one of my best friends, is an Irish boy who grew up in London and has an absolutely phenomenal radio show. The next episode's airing next Friday, January 24th on Refuge Worldwide. I have good news and I have bad news. Good news, we got new mics. So the next podcast episode is going to be amazing sound. This podcast episode was the last podcast we recorded with our old mics, which are the cuter ones, but less good sound. So apologies about that. Also, this week we speak super fast. So if it's too fast, watch it on 0.5.
Hindsight's a beautiful thing. Hindsight's a great thing. I think looking back on learned experiences is way more fruitful and way more powerful and way more poignant than looking forward at things and kind of thinking, I'm going to take information from this. This is a really good podcast that I'm going to learn things from. I think you subconsciously learn more things than you do life experience anyway.
Oh, totally.
I think you subconsciously learn more things as you go through life, as you go through these processes, than you do kind of being like, okay, I'm going to sit down today and I'm going to kind of watch this podcast. Yeah, I'm going to learn. I'm going to take some things. And also, unfortunately, trial and error. Learned experience is probably often more negative than kind of like good ones kind of teach you so much as well.
Exactly.
That's why when I was asking you questions, I was like, yeah, that's me being a control freak. Like I kind of like need to know, but that's also why I was kind of like, maybe I don't want to know too much, because throwing myself in the deep end, I think, is usually quite good for these sorts of things, because otherwise I'll sit there for like 2 weeks before being like, I'm going to prepare this out. I'm going to tell it with a script.
Right. And this is the thing. Like, I haven't thought about a script once. Every conversation I've had so far, 3 of them.
All 3.
All 3.
Cut them on one hand.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, I love my one fan. Your mom.
Shout out, Mom.
We have our world's favorite person in common, which is you. So obviously I could list out all the ways that you've inspired me and like so many amazing things about you and like how much I love you and our friendship. One of the things as of late, there's a million things, but one of the things as of late was like, I thought it was so cool. You're like, I'm going to do this radio show. You pitched it. Obviously it's hard to do something new. It's also hard to actually do the thing that you said you're going to do. That's what's so admirable about you and doing that project. So many people lose it in the ideas of wanting to do something.
Yeah, I think throughout my, adult life, I've had various creative things that I've kind of like dipped in and out of, whether that was writing for magazines and for blogs, or I threw a couple parties in London. I mean, it's all been very like music orientated. It's a double-edged sword where I'm very happy and I'm very proud of myself, because I've had an idea, taken it to fruition multiple times, and I've done these things, but I've also kind of kicked myself a little bit. Okay, well, you clearly like love doing this. Why wouldn't you do this as a career? Why didn't you kind of like pull your socks up and try and make a career out of it? But then I don't know, as I've thought about it more and more over the years, I'm kind of like, do you know what? There's value and there's power in having a hobby and an interest and a passion. Yeah. And as soon as I start to try monetizing that, I do fear that would maybe suck the fun out of it. That's a cheap way to kind of convince myself out of putting in the effort to do it. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, that's like my entire life. I've always been so good at art. When I was in 3rd grade, I won some like New York State competition for like a charcoal drawing of a horse I did.
Edit across the screen now.
Yeah. It's literally like I was talented. I mean, I am. Like I love drawing, and I was really into art, and I was like, oh my God, I should go to art school. In the back of my head, all my parents ever talked about was like independence. Like you have to be independent. You have to figure out your own shit and be able to take care of yourself. But like my dad grew up so poor, and he was all like, you just need to have money. You need to have money. So I think both of those ideas of like, you have to be independent and you have to have money. I was like, I can't go to art school. And like, no one said I couldn't go to art school, but like I had this idea that I wouldn't, because I would just be drawing the rest of my life anyway. So I might as well go to business school where you make money, so that then you can have a hobby, which is drawing.
Do you know what? I had like a really similar experience, but in a kind of like weird way, where I don't think anyone ever told me this, but I think I took it upon myself. Like, I don't think that's, but I trained as a primary school teacher at university.
Wait, I only know this because Veronica posted those really fucking cute pictures of you being a teacher. Imagine you as a teacher.
The stiffest man you've ever seen.
Every single mom, like I already know if you were my teacher.
Oh, you know I was flirting in the playground.
My mom,
parents' evening?
No, my mom would have been like shoving my dad out of the way to be like, hi.
Yeah, I remember I got to like college, sixth form, 16, 17, 18, whatever years old, whatever you call it. And I just told myself for some reason, I was like, I need something lucrative. I need something that's going to like make money. And why the fuck I thought being a primary school teacher was going to give me that. Yeah.
You're like starting a venture capital. No.
Yeah. Do you know who's rich? Primary school teachers.
Yeah.
Really, really rich.
They're rolling in it, driving their Bentleys to school.
Yeah, literally. I was like, I need something vocational, something I'm going to come out of university and like have a kind of degree or a qualification with, where I'm going to kind of like get money. Obviously got to the second year, I was like, this is not for me.
Right.
But the funny thing is, the whole way through it, everyone, my parents, my friends, anyone else that kind of like knew an inch about me were kind of like, what are you up to? This isn't you. Like, what are you doing?
So everyone said that, and then what was your like response every time?
I was like, no.
You're like,
I know what's best. I think, again, I was kind of living in denial. There was less risk in doing something like that. I think really putting myself out there and maybe doing what I wanted to do at that age. I didn't have to confidence to do something that was maybe a bit more competitive or kind
Right.
of like required a bit more effort,
Yeah.
or that may not have like been a straight direct route into having an income, because like a lot of those kind of industries end up being you intern for free at the start of it. So I think maybe that scared me off. It kind of comes back to what I said before. It's given me, I've got a good job now that kind of pays the bills, and I get paid pretty well for like Berlin. Like it's okay, could get paid more. Looking at you, my boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, I now get to do that as a hobby, and I get to do it on my own terms.
Yeah.
I get to, like, as you said before, like kind of like come up with an idea, take my time with it.
Yeah.
And like really kind of like think about how I want this to look and not doing it for someone else. The radio show that I've just done, the 3-part series, has very much been my idea. No one asked me to do it. Something that I found interesting, something that I kind of conceptualized, like noticed, kind of like going to events and gigs and stuff like this. And I kind of like noticed this circular trend in music. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. That would make an interesting show. Mapped that out and then
Yeah.
presented it over the 3-part series that I'm about to finish.
And I mean, I loved it. I'm a fan, huge fan. So many cool creative ideas just like die with like the want of doing it and not actually the action. And like, it's so easy to always have an excuse. Well, I have work, or well, I have this, and blah, blah, blah. And you're one of the people that I feel like you never have an excuse or whatever. I feel like you're very like, you're not.
I feel like I'm full of excuses.
No, you're not. I feel like you're like the one out of like all of our friends, even. You're like, I'm going home. You're like driven in a way. I don't know if that's the right word. Or it's like you have like, you're like, I'm going to go home now. And everyone's like, what do you mean?
What do you mean sleep?
Yeah, like, why don't you stay for 4 more days with us?
Yeah.
Stay with us now.
Yeah, exactly. The cult.
Yeah.
It's interesting hearing. Do you know what? Other people have said this to me before, and like, it's funny from an outsider's perspective that it's seen as that, because I don't know, maybe that's just me beating myself, but I don't see myself as like driven or strict on myself or putting boundaries in place. But I guess, I don't know, hearing other people say things like that, I can like, okay, cool. I can recognize that I do these things.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't see that for myself.
I do.
But I guess, yeah, it's a self-love thing. It's telling yourself, appreciating and recognizing the good things that you do and whatever comes to fruition after that.
I mean, even the times where I've been down and you're like, girl, touch grass, you know already like the things that you need to do for you when you're not feeling your best too, which I feel like it's so admirable. It just really is.
I mean, again, it goes back to what you said at the start. I think these are learned subconscious things. Like, these aren't things that you kind of pick up from a podcast, or kind of like there's no book or there's no manual. I think I've made many errors in the past. That's kind of like what brought me to Berlin. I know, learning what was right for me, learning what was wrong for me, and I guess getting to this place of being able to call it when it needs to be called, or do something that I don't want to do, or kind of like putting strict guidelines in place to make myself do some work that I don't want to do, all came from trial and error, missing deadlines, a project not going the way I wanted it to go. I mean,
100%. Even just hanging out with the right type of people or friends or whatever, like that's all a trial and error thing too. Or even just work stuff, who you want to be working with or who you don't. I feel like I always forget that no one fucking knows what they're doing. But I loved when I found out. I remember I was 20 when I realized, wait, my parents are just like random people.
Yeah.
They don't actually know everything. And I was like, whoa, that's sick.
Yeah.
Like,
that's
no one knows
crazy.
anything.
I mean, I choose to believe that my mother knows everything.
I believe that your mom knows everything too. And you do.
Friend of the pod, friend of the show. I'm about to say something really profound here, and it's that not everything on social media is real. Very much that thing of kind of like, you think everyone's got it together, you think like, I want to be where they're at, they've got it all going on, they know what they're doing. There's like loads of people that I've kind of met, especially since moving to Berlin, and you meet them and then you follow each other on Instagram, whatever, and then you kind of see what they do, their work, like how they present themselves, all this kind of thing. It's like, wow, they really have it together. Like, I really want to get to like where they're at. And you meet them more and you get to know them, and you're kind of not talking down on anyone, but you are just kind of going through the motions as well. You are figuring out as you go along, and we all choose to present a certain version of ourselves online. I do it.
Yeah.
You do it.
No, yeah.
Cliche, they do it.
I love the quote that's like, comparison is the thief of joy, because it's so easy to sit on your fucking bed and like look. It's so easy to do that. And it's so easy to be like, I'm not this enough, or I don't have that and I want it and they have it. But like, everyone has things that other people don't have. And also, I think you recognize things in others that you value. And sometimes you forget or don't realize it in yourself because you value it. You like inherently either have it or you're working on doing more of that, especially since you're recognizing it. And then it's more in your attention.
It's a good point as well, because I think whether or not you see it in yourself, you seek out qualities in other people that you want to echo in yourself. If I see, I don't know, you as someone that works really hard, has your own business, does all these things, I'm kind of like,
what?
What? Me? No, that's someone to me that has it like, you have it really together. I don't know, maybe you don't see yourself like that, but like I see that, and I guess we kind of gravitate towards people that are doing things that we want to do.
You move here, obviously you knew some people through people. Like when I moved here, I didn't know anyone really. You go based off of vibes, what people are into. I want to be friends with those people because they seem like they're having fun, or like they're doing something that I like, so I want to do that too.
Yeah.
And be friends with them. I don't know if that's like boiling it down to the most like simple thought of like friendship in a way.
I mean, interestingly, the people that I knew here, most of them have left now. Like Berlin, as you know, is a bit of a revolving door. I feel like immigrants that move here is a revolving door, and people kind of like don't stay forever necessarily. Some people do, obviously, but there is a lot of in and out, maybe more so than other cities. The majority of people that I knew when I moved here that I would kind of call friends have now all left. The majority of people that I am friends with have now left it, and I didn't know any of our friends before. So the vision that I had for myself when I moved here, and the people I was going to be friends with, is completely different.
But isn't that also beautiful too? Because I'm sure in more ways than just that one way, did you have a vision for yourself that hasn't been the vision? Like I sometimes feel, not to like lead the witness, but I sometimes feel like I have this big idea or vision or this is what I want maybe. But then what reality ends up being is so much better than that, or like so much different, but in a different way that then I like learned a bunch of shit that I didn't know I had to learn or whatever.
I kind of like ended up here in like a bit of a messy way. Not messy in terms of it was dramatic, but messy in terms it was kind of unplanned. I was back and forth kind of visiting for like quite a while, and I was seeing someone here for like a little bit, and I was doing like month trips. So it was a lot of back and forth kind of thing. So when I was actually kind of moving here, there wasn't a kind of, I'm going to move here, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, it's going to look like this. It was more just kind of throw shit at the wall and see what sticks kind of thing, and shit stuck.
Now that you're 2 years in almost, I can ask you what your favorite bit of it has been so far, but I feel like I know like 5 answers already in my head.
Meeting you. I don't know. I don't think I can pinpoint anything because it's all been a bit of a blur, and it's completely different to how it was when it started. Actually, I don't know if that's true, because I see it's completely different in terms of like friendship groups, settings, scenario is all completely different. But I'm in the same job, doing similar things, maybe less partying and trying to find kind of more fun things outside of partying. That was kind of like, it's like my big thing for 2024. Is weirdly that I think one of my favorite things has been bringing friends from home here. Because all my friends from home have known for like 15 years, having them here and having them experience that, because I do think this is going to sound really wanky, but I do think you learn a lot and you grow a lot moving away from home.
100%.
And I think for some people that's not a desire of theirs, and that's totally fine. That's totally valid. I think it's nice to show people that a lot of work did go into me moving here, and whether it's financially getting here or kind of mentally making myself prepared for that, or going through the motions of, I don't know, German bureaucracy flat. The big thing has been experiencing that with people that I've known for 15, 20 years. I mean, it's just not just been kind of like dumping my old life behind and having this new one. It's been kind of taking people on that journey with me. Friends, for example, that have come out like multiple times, and they've got to know my friends from here, and it's been melding those two things together that I think I've really enjoyed.
That is nice. It's also just kind of like a reminder that the whole of life is like this fun little flowy thing that we're all on. Friends are with you along the way. It's so nice to have some sort of constant in that. I don't think I post like that much on social media, but maybe it'd be easy for someone to say like, oh, this person clearly moved to Berlin and like looks like they're having the time of their life, where it's like, also the first year was so fucking hard, and all of the bureaucracy, like the shit that like just like starting a new life and moving somewhere is so fucking hard. And I did it for no other reason than I wanted to, when like people are forced into it so much too. But it's also just easy to see like, oh, this person lives in Berlin or whatever, like maybe they're having fun, they have like a bunch of friends and stuff, but you never see all the hard shit you go through.
Stressful times, the lonely times, the kind of like confused times in a country where you don't speak the language, like all these sorts of things. You really don't see that.
You don't see that.
More of that on Instagram, please.
Literally.
More paperwork on Instagram. I think we both moved at an interesting time as well. I think we both moved quite late, I'd say. I think people seem to kind of, I don't know, maybe leave their homes or home countries or whatever, if they are leaving for like leisurely reasons, like we did, not because they need to leave, like around like, I don't know, 24, maybe 25, 26.
I was 29.
I was
28.
No, 29 now, 2 years ago, 27.
I had this whole thing where I was like, what the fuck are you doing? You're almost 30 and you're moving to a new country for what? But then I was like, I have to do this. Like, I felt like a gut feeling. But I was saying this to Veronica. I am so happy I moved when I did. Because I think a lot of my 20s was figuring out, kind of cultivating self-love, not knowing that I didn't really love myself. I don't know, the way that I grew and like figured out my shit in a way. No one has their shit figured out. I don't have my shit figured out, but enough to the point.
It's a constant thing, right? You're always going to be learning, you're always going to be changing, you're always going to be developing. And if you're not, and you think you've got it all figured out, then honey, pretty sweetie girl, I've got something hard coming for you.
I can't imagine like being like, no, I'm good, I got this.
I also don't think I'd want to be like that. Like if you're not learning, you're not growing, you're not developing, then like what the fuck are you doing?
Well, there's so many people, I don't know if this is very American, I think it probably is, but there's so many people that when I was moving here, people were like, why would you leave? You don't know anyone there. What's going on there? And I was like,
what they got there?
I was like, why not? And then people would be like,
but let me pose the question, why Germany?
Wait, are you asking me why
Germany?
I'm
asking you.
So my sister moved to London during COVID.
Paige?
Yeah. My best friend moved to Paris because she fell in love with a man. And then just never came home.
I love the city.
Well, her mom's French, and so like during lockdown, she was like, I have to get out of here. Like she was in her tiny apartment in Brooklyn. I was like, I have to leave.
Yeah.
And then because she had the
Move to a tiny
EU
apartment,
passport.
tiny apartment in Paris.
Exactly. But then like when lockdown, or I guess when you could travel,
Mhm.
I was like, well, what the fuck was I just doing for how many months? I want to travel. So I want to visit my sister, and then I'm going to visit my friend in Paris. And if I'm going to be there, how far away is Berlin, where Meg moved during this COVID as well,
Mhm.
or like right before? I was like, I'll just go there for a weekend because I heard there's fun parties.
Were there fun parties?
And boy, did I have fun.
And boy, did I
Well,
have fun.
it was like the first day, Meg took me to dinner, and then we were like chilling, and then we met up with a bunch of her friends. Then we went to a house party, and everyone at the house party was like, "Oh, are you from New York?" I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
They were like, "Well, when I lived in New York, I liked it for these reasons, but I love Berlin for these reasons." Everyone was from everywhere,
Mhm.
and everyone had all these different thoughts about living different places. Everyone just felt so open and creative, and I was like, "Wait, this seems cool." And then like day 2, I just met more people. Day 2, I met Barbara,
And that will change your life.
You
What a
know,
woman.
guessing this whole like 3 days of being here, I felt like a gut feeling that I should move. And then I was like, no one moves somewhere after being there for 3 days. And so I went back for another 3 days, like 6 months later.
And I was like, if I do 6,
Less than a whole week.
Just you wait till I get to 9.
And I was like, fuck it, I want to do it. And then obviously on the me trying to figure out how to move, I kept being like, you're like 30. What are you doing? And then I was like, well, what am I doing? Like, I'm not doing anything. To show yourself your own resilience in moving somewhere new is really fucking powerful too. The small things that you can kind of figure out on your own, you're like, oh my God, I can do anything almost.
Well, this is it as well. I think I constantly have these like little wins navigating living in a new country, a foreign country, a country where you don't speak the language. All these things, there's constant little wins, and I can overcome these like personal little battles. I'm not gonna have a fucking party because I navigated like 2 sentences in German in Erica, but I'll have a little kind of to myself. Woo! After like X amount of time here, I didn't realize it at the time, but being in London and being from London, being there for so many years, I became complacent. There was no challenges. It's interesting you saying about meeting people in New York, and the first question being, what do you do for work? I didn't even meet new people in London. Our like circle, extended circle, extended circle. You knew everyone. You knew who they were, or like you heard of them, and there was no kind of grasp of new people. Whether it's like making a new friend or making a new acquaintance here, I still count that as a little win. It's also like a challenge, putting yourself out there and saying to someone that you met like twice at a party, like, do you want to go get a coffee or something 100%. Like that? Like, these are all like little wins, and these are all to me, like never had them in London, because I would never ever think of someone meeting at a party in London and I messaging them being like, hey, want to get a coffee? Send the text being like, hey, do you want to get a coffee? And then afterwards be like, what a freak, who said that?
But even our first little coffee date, I remember being like,
I remember it well. I was so nervous. I was wearing so much perfume.
Were you? I can't even smell anything. I don't even have a sense of smell.
And it was wasted on you.
No, I know, literally. You know what I was thinking about today? How we met like so many times, and you think the first time we met was when we were singing Rockstar at Oxy.
I choose to believe it.
I think we literally met and hung out, genuinely hung out like 3 times. And like the 4th time, I think, was the Nickelback time.
And being called out and feel attacked. As 2 natural blondes.
2 natural blondes.
I think being dumb and playing dumb is to our power and is to our advantage.
I think so too. When I met you, I was definitely in like my phase of starting to feel like, oh, I'm actually meeting people I'm really starting to like.
It's not friends by proxy, it's friends by choice.
Yeah.
There's definitely something about kind of like, you know, those instantaneous friendships where you like kind of like click and it's like, oh my God, like we're best friends. Like I love you so much. Like, we're gonna live and die together. I do fear that those are the ones that kind of like crash and burn, but I feel like the slow uphill trajectory, those ones are kind of like maybe more the lasting ones. I think you kind of like slowly learn to build trust, build like mutual interests, introduce people to your friendship groups and stuff like this. Those are the ones that kind of like, I don't know, maybe more so stand the test of time. I think that's kind of maybe what we had.
That's what natural blondes do.
Yeah.
Building things slower is better.
Same with relationships as well, though. Those are the relationships, like romantic relationships that you jump into head first and you're seeing each other 6 times a week, which is very much my zhuzh. Yeah. Love ya.
For some reason, when we're talking about it, it's like thinking about like building a house or like a building or something.
Not a metaphor.
I'm such a visionary.
You are.
I'm thinking like if the building went up super fast, I don't know anything about construction.
You look like you do. The outfit says architect.
I feel like it's also a part of the like you still haven't met some of the people you're gonna love most in this world.
This I love. Not to be kind of like hippy dippy, but I do kind of love that. As a control freak. As a control freak here, kind of like not knowing. And I do love doing this as well, like looking back on a friendship. And then I always do this thing. Think about like the first time that you met them and you kind of like, you'd have thought that a year and a half later you'd like, I don't know, live with them or be going on holiday with them. Do all these things with them. And I'm like, that's kind of cute. Maybe sincere.
No, it's so cute. Veronica said you're doing dry January. I didn't know if that was true.
It is true. The rumors are true. Don't get me wrong. She loves a drink. She loves going out. She loves all these things. But I think they very easily slip away from you, wanting to have control over everything. And also just kind of just like knowing what's good for me and knowing what's healthy for me. And like, I think you're very good, for example, at having like 1 glass of wine and kind of calling it quits. Like, I'll have a couple glasses of wine. I'm kind of like, I'm only one fucking game. Like, let's go out, girls. Not all the time, but like some of the time. And like, I think it's good for me to do like regular check-ins as well. Like my 2024 New Year's resolution was no drinking on weekdays and not going out once a weekend, like not drinking once a weekend a month. I think it depends on who you are. I think it depends on who you are as a person. Like for me, I think it's an important thing to do, but I don't think someone else needs it. Like, if I want to go out and get pissed like regularly, I also need to make sure that I can kind of like go out
and
not be pissed.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Through trial and error, like what we were speaking about, you have to figure out what works for you. I think I do a lot of things for me that I need to do.
Yeah.
Meditating, journaling, like pulling tarot and like reflecting, going for a walk, doing like Pilates or something. Like I need to do all these things to feel like my best version of myself, but I'm not going to tell everyone that they need to. I thought that like journaling and meditation was so hippy dippy. So like, okay, ew. Not even just like journaling, like, oh, you're like obsessed with yourself. Like I did this today. Like, ew. I wish that I knew earlier that it's actually so important for my mental health. These things, or like dry January or whatever, I wouldn't do that, but it works for some people.
Honestly, not just a pretty face. I went for a period and it was actually off your recommendation to start journaling. And I did do it for a little bit. And I tried to get into it and I just felt like silly doing it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you felt like this at the start. I was kind of like,
100%.
what am I up to? And I know it'd be good for me. There's a lot of mental gymnastics going on up here.
Yeah. My gateway drug to journaling was I got gifted this gratitude journal. And it was just like every single day it had an inspirational quote of some sort. And it was like 3 lines of 3 things you're grateful for. It was like for a year. And for some reason I was like easy peasy. I did it for a year. So after the year I looked back at it, read the whole thing. And I realized that every single day I was basically grateful for the same 3 things. Even though it was specific different things, it was always something beautiful I saw, like a gorgeous sunset, a really pretty tree, or something like nature oriented. The other thing was something to do with a friend. Like I either went for a walk with my best friend, or I met someone new, or I went for a cute dinner with someone, or I was on the phone with someone for a few minutes and it was just like made my day. And then the third thing was like trying a new restaurant or going to a new place or like traveling or something like this. It was always.
But did you find yourself being repetitive? Because I remember speaking to you at the time and I did take your thing and it was 3 things that you're grateful for and then kind of maybe like free jump. And I remember just like the 3 things I was grateful for were the same thing over and over again. My friends, Matt check. I think like something stupid like my situation, feeling lucky to have like a job and a home.
Yeah.
Those things.
No, but like why is that bad?
My fat bank account.
My fat ass.
My fat ass. My fat ass. My fat wallet.
No, but I'm like, why is that bad though? Because I still do at the end of my journaling every day. I put like the 3 things I'm grateful for. But I think I boil it down to like when you're going through a really, really rough time, or even just a rough time, it doesn't have to be really, really rough. Like it is so hard to think about the things you're grateful for. It can be the smallest little things. And those are like things that have kind of like picked me up out of a bad time. Everything can be so shit. And the one little thing that sparks joy or like are grateful for it, maybe it is like always going to be Matt check for a fucking few months or whatever. Why not?
I think this is the thing if I ever get like anxious or stressed or upset or like depressed. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I have this school of thought of kind of constantly reminding myself if I'm anxious about a certain person, I remind myself of the things that they do to kind of like prove that that anxiety is invalid. If I'm really stressed out about like my job or like a housing situation, I'd remind myself I have a pretty good paycheck and a stable job that lets me work from home abroad. Housing, I have like 2 really lovely flatmates. It's fine that my room is cold and there's a man peeking in my window.
Okay.
Shout at him.
Okay, new friends.
new
friends.
We did speak about new friends.
Yeah, the grateful things does make you feel better, right? All the things you could be feeling shit about. In the same way, you could be feeling amazing about them. It's so easy to shit talk yourself or shit talk a situation or like be negative. But it's just as easy to look at the other side of it and you're going to feel better.
Do you think there's a point where you can kind of get delirious though? Because sometimes I think about these things and I'm kind of like, I talk myself into, hey, you're being ungrateful. Look at all the good things that you have. And you kind of, maybe sometimes it does take me out of there's a problem here and there's an issue that needs to be reflected on it and needs to be resolved.
Right.
And I found myself doing that, which is why I kind of like don't do this practice of, you've got all these like great things in your life, like kind of like stop focusing on the negative things because then you start to ignore
the actual things you need to like
changing.
Look at.
Like at the minute I'm kind of trying to get into therapy in Germany, which is like notoriously a tricky task in English. So I'm really like putting it off. Like it's a really arduous like task. It off
for so long.
One of the things I'll do to put myself off kind of like doing this arduous task is kind of being like, do you know what? Like it's not that bad. Like you have like really good things in your life. And I forget about the times that I can't like fucking walk into a room where I don't know how many people are in there. There is a double-edged sword to it where like, yes, it can be a useful tool, but it also can be a hindering tool.
I do think that there is so much toxic positivity. That is exactly what that is. Like, sorry to my mom if she's listening to this, but she's queen. If I have an issue and I'm like, oh, this really fucking sucks. And she'll be like, manifest.
She's a manifesty girly. Are you a manifesty girly?
I'll manifest, but I'm not saying manifest is a fucking slogan for like when someone's in a bad mood. You being like, oh, I really like need to do this therapy thing. Manifest therapy.
Yeah.
And
well,
like,
you've manifested this flat, this gorgeous little flat.
I did.
No, I'm joking. There's a time and a place. I do get it.
Especially talking to so many people I've met here that are, you know, from places that don't accept positive mindsets so well or don't grow up with that. People have said to me, that's very American. I'm like, girl, but I've been miserable for a really long time. The second I started feeling happy and creating my own happiness, I feel better. So I'm going to keep doing it.
I was gonna say, you know that TikTok of or like video on Instagram, whatever, reel of that out myself as a real watcher of that girl being like, I want to talk to all the manifestation girlies. Go up to a homeless person right now and tell them to manifest a home.
I've not seen that, but that like terrifies me.
Yeah.
I think like me and Kai were talking about this. It's more like you think about something and then where your attention goes, your energy flows.
Okay.
Maybe like you speaking out loud. Obviously, that's the first time you told me about the trying to find a therapist and it being harder. It's like maybe just like saying that. The things that I'm grateful for now are so much of the things that I struggled to get. Not get, but when you have less things or you struggle through things more, then I think it's so easy to be more grateful for the smaller things. And then I feel like I am just like kind of happier because of it. I think it's easier when you work really hard to try to think about like what you're grateful for and build your own happiness. Like it's easy to like not have a scarcity mindset.
What is a scarcity mindset?
Like I don't have enough. Like I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough friends.
Yeah.
I think everything can be cringy no matter what. Even my TikToks. I know my TikToks are cringy, especially to some people.
But I love them. And do you know what? Actually, let's go back to you. Because one of the things that drew me to you was your sincerity. Like, not sincerity, that's not the right word. Was your kind of like lack of giving a fuck. Because I think I've lived so much of my life kind of being like, that's really embarrassing. Why are you doing that? People that think that's normal. People that think that's cool. Like, why the fuck are you doing that? If you'd have asked me 3 years ago if I would go on a podcast, absolutely not. Like, it did take me like 2 glasses of red wine to get here. That's always been a big problem for me, was kind of being perceived. When you go through editing this, you'll probably notice I will constantly divert to a joke. It will constantly become like a laugh. It'll constantly like shift things away from that conversation. That's like, I don't know, like as a defense mechanism. I remember when me and Matchek were in Marseille when I still had TikTok, 6 months sober off TikTok. We were looking at your TikToks and we were going through them all, and I was just kind of like, it's really nice to see someone do a silly little bit, say something really nice, put that on the internet completely public for everyone to see. And I was just kind of like, that's someone that's really kind of like open and comfortable with themselves and these things. And I was like, wow, I really admire that. And I think maybe that's like one of these things, again, as we said at the start, you draw yourself towards people to emulate characteristics that they have in themselves. As I've kind of gone on, even at the radio show, for example, that's something that I wouldn't have done because that was speaking and putting something out into the world that couldn't then be retracted. I think words, for example, like when I was doing like writing for magazines and blogs and stuff, was easier because I have control over that and I can change that constantly until it's perfect. A radio show, you put it there and it's out, kind of thing.
Thank you for saying that.
That'll be €5.
Because of the shit that I've been through, or the growth or building my self-love in my earlier 20s, if this shit has worked for me, maybe it'll work for someone else, and maybe my little TikTok will inspire one fucking person. Maybe it won't, but like I'm having fun, and I think I'm building up more courage in myself by like putting shit out there and being less precious with things. And that's a fun little exercise as well. One of the things that I've been talking to my therapist about is what we were kind of talking about before. Oh my God, does this person think this is, or like these like things that I think, realizing that like pulling yourself out of a situation where you're constantly wrapped up in yourself, like me posting a TikTok and then being obsessed with like, okay, who's watching that TikTok? Who's looking at it? Whatever. But it's like, girl, no one fucking thinks about this TikTok. So like, who cares?
5 seconds later, people have forgotten about it.
Yeah.
Like TikTok goes rot in the brain and people are going to forget about that in a second. And do you know what? They're either going to forget about it because they don't care about it, they don't like it. But the person that does like it will remember it. If it means something to someone, they'll remember it. They'll apply that. They'll take that away with them. But if they don't care about it, the negative things, they'll just move on to hating something else. I
used to be so freaked out about people thinking negatively about me. But I think more and more I'm like, I don't give a fuck because I don't think negatively about me.
I think negatively about you.
Well, I know. Obviously, there's going to be some days where I'm really down in it and being like, everyone hates me. And I won't be able to have that thought of like, yeah, but you love you. We are learning and growing and like trying to be at least better versions of ourselves. And like our friends are also inspiring us. It's like, hey, that's great.
It's a good thing. I've been at my same job for like 6 years, corporate job, blah, 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 pays the bills. Not particularly interesting, but like whatever. Probably my first year going to my second year, we had like a new kind of like head of the UK kind of come in, and she did that whole thing when like someone new comes in and they're like, I'm going to speak to every single person here and I'm going to kind of like really like understand them and I'm going to be that kind of boss. I'm really going to get into it. And she was great. She was lovely. And I got like pulled into like a meeting room with her and she was like,
you like crack a beer open. You're like, is this cool? You want one?
Yeah, you want one? Beer's out back. No, I was like literally I sat there opposite with her and she like kind of like gone through everyone. I think she must have like got down to me like one of the last people and she was just like, Ned, what do you want?
Oh.
I'm like, nothing new. And she's like, no, I mean like, where do you want to be in 10 years? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Where do you want to be in 5 years then? And I was like, I don't know really, like not so sure. And then she like tries to make a joke and she goes, where do you want to be in 5 minutes? And I was like, out of this room. And she just looks at me and she goes, okay, you can go. And I left.
But you still work there.
She didn't speak to me again.
No, but she doesn't work there anymore.
No, she doesn't work there anymore. I'm sure she got it. I think she was kind of like hoping to get some kind of like aspirational kind of like goals and help you.
Well, you said one of your goals for this year was what? Not drink during the weekdays and not go out every weekend. Are you thinking about 2025 yet, or we're not even there?
No, I am. And funny enough, I was thinking about it on the way here. I think I did do pretty well and kind of like giving where I was coming from the year before, and the year before that, definitely improvement. So I think I'm going to just push it a little bit further this year. Just
be a born again Christian.
Be a born again getting Christian. I want to start preaching. Yeah, someone needs to. And if not me, then who? I think the big lesson I learned from this year was I can find value in things that I don't need like alcohol as a crutch constantly. I can do loads of things sober. I can also do loads of things alone, which is a big thing for me. And like constantly be like supported. If no one to go out with and do things, I don't need to then wait for somebody to do.
Yeah.
Like, I can do things alone. And I used to be really good at that actually when I was younger. I used to travel a lot alone. And I want to get back into that more this year. When I was maybe in my early 20s, I was very kind of good at not waiting around for people. And like if I want to do something, I'll go and do it. I think I've applied that small scale in the past year. Like if I want to go to the cinema and no one wants to go to the cinema. If I want to go to a gallery and no one's, I'll just go to a gallery. But now I want to apply that on like a bigger scale because I want to do in Germany and further. And like if I want to do those things, I'm going to do them. So that's 2025 goals.
I mean, up until recently, I feel like I didn't make any money. I also paid the least amount of rent of anyone that I knew for like years. I would obviously rather be drinking or going out, spending money on that. I would rather be going out than being in my apartment.
So I lived in the biggest shithole you've ever seen.
My whole apartment was smaller than this room. I loved it though.
Do you know what? I had a shithole in London with my best friend Marley, and I missed that shithole. It was actually quite nice, but we made it a shithole. It was actually like a really lovely flat. If you gave it like tender loving care. 2 new people have moved in, adorned it with like nice things, and it was like a lovely space to live in.
Smelled good.
It was not when me and Marley lived there.
Right.
No, we had a revolving door of people that didn't want to live with us. And doesn't that make you
challenge?
Just think and reflect? Me moving to Berlin being like everyone else is the problem. Fuck me, it was me that was the problem.
The one time that my mom has ever served up some realness to me, which is like because I told you she's very like positive, toxic positive sometimes. I think it was like 3 months into me living here, and I was very negative, and I was very like, other people that have moved here have known people. Other people that have moved here have moved with their partner or had a boyfriend or had a job so they could meet people. Like I was very like very scarcity mindset. And then my mom was like, "Man, you keep saying you're happy, but you sound fucking miserable." And also, maybe it's not everyone else. Maybe it's you that's the problem. And I went for a 7-mile run, sobbing the entire way. I literally
dragged through a thorn bush.
Did not speak to her for like, this whole. I was like, I'm leaving. Like I'm gonna go for like the 7-mile run in fucking Lisbon, like up these hills. Like I was literally like sobbing. That was a real reality check. That was a good one, Cher. Because I think I was in like,
what's her name?
Sharon. Yeah.
That feels very English.
Her mom wanted to name her Sharon, Lisa, or Dijontel, a beautiful French name that she loved.
As a French woman.
My grandmother was Irish. Well, you're Irish. I don't want to forget, but my thing that I've been asking everyone as like my last question, but if you could go back to like any time in your life, what age would you go back to telling like some really good advice to? Or a time that you think you might have needed it? I feel like I would go back to like when I was like 12 or when I was 18 or when I was like 21. Like these were all like kind of really hard times. I think my main thing is that I would be like, bitch, it gets so fucking good. I wouldn't even tell you how good it gets. It gets so good. That's not really advice even.
Well, no, it's a nice thing to hear. But I think that's kind of a cruel thing to do.
Why?
You're in the midst of shit and you're kind of like, it's going to get better. Now that I'm saying it all out, maybe it's not a cruel thing to do. In answer to the question. Okay, I've got 2 answers. Can I have 2 answers?
Yes, I had 3.
I've got one which is really boring.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like young, gay, and thinking you're never going to find anyone kind of thing. Because you will. Oh, you will. You'll find some wrong ones.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to find some wrongs. But you'll also find a really good one.
Yeah.
So that.
Love is real.
Love is love. Speak on that.
I can't, but you can.
That's the cringe sincere one. And then the other one is don't become a primary school teacher. Don't spend 29 grand becoming a primary school teacher.
But do you think you learned anything from that? Obviously,
yeah,
other
not
than
to become
not to do it.
You knew my answer already.
Yeah.
You can be bullied by middle-aged women via email. Have I told you the story?
No.
The reason I stopped my second placement was because I was in this like boarding school, and it was like the secondary school, high school was boarding, and the infant school that I was doing my placement in for like 6 months was primary. It was in a year 2 class. There was 2 incidents that really turned me off teaching. That was the reason I stopped. The first incident was a 6-year-old boy coming up to me and asked me what my dad does. I told him my dad was a paramedic, and he said, my dad's a lawyer. I bet he earns more money than your dad. I was like, T.
I grew up with those people.
Yeah. I was like, T, but at 6 years old, that's insane. It sounds like a lie when I tell that story, but it's not a fucking lie.
No, I was like, what the fuck was that dad saying to that kid? Like, so gross.
Well, the sad thing was because then at a later date, this kid then ended up crying to me, saying that he didn't like going home and that his family were kind of like really dismissive and basically not abusive, but kind of like not attentive parents and all this kind of shit. Neglected child, essentially.
Yeah.
Anyway, that, and also, this is going to sound stupid, but I had like a teacher that was, what do you call it? Like my placement teacher. So he would be training me, I guess you'd call it. I was on the class computer one day and was on the emails looking for something and saw an email thread that was about me from all the teachers calling me out because I was wearing colourful socks. Being like, I think it's highly inappropriate that he wears colourful socks. Middle-aged women. I was like,
that's unhappy.
I was like 19, 20 years old and like severely insecure. Anything would set me over the edge, let alone a bunch
colorful socks being
not even colorful watch, but like the idea of multiple adults
bullying
talking
you.
about me
Yeah.
behind my back.
That's fucking crazy.
So yeah, so I would say don't go to primary school teacher because it's not for you and you're going to get bullied by middle-aged
Yeah,
women.
well-
Fuck you, Sharon. Not your mum.
My first time getting bullied by a middle-aged woman was when my mom's best friend was shit-talking me, and I walked in on it, and I heard her, and she was calling me...
Your mum's
basically-
friend was shit-talking you?
Yeah. She
That's so
basically called me like
horrible.
a fat whore, and I was like...
That's not shit-talking. That's,
So,
I don't know, abuse. How old were you?
18. I walked in.
That'll do some damage.
I was wearing
girl.
like, you know the years of like Kesha?
You're not a friend of the pod.
I was wearing like high cut. You remember the shorts that like Kesha would wear? Remember like 2011?
Like disco. Oh,
Like
like
the-
leotard, like
not
kind of.
fully, but like
No, but it would like go
the
up, like,
denim
above the
cutoffs.
hip.
Yeah, like
Oh,
no, it was
no,
just like denim cutoffs. Yeah.
It's like a
So
denim
like
font.
that, and then I was wearing like a bandeau with like a crocheted top
Naturally.
and then
Natürlich.
she saw me and she was with like her friends, and then I came around into the kitchen a different way. Like I think that she didn't realize I was coming in, and she was like saying like, I mean, obviously she's gonna dress like a whore. Look at her mother. She was like,
Was your mum there? No.
no, my mom wasn't there.
Who was she talking to? She was
like,
talking to
her other
herself in the
friends.
mirror.
No, her other friends.
Fuck.
And then I remember being like, hi, and she was like, Amanda, hi.
I love you for meddling though, because
Yeah.
like I would have kind of like slowly like disappeared into the back, but I kind of like love the kind of cuntiness of the kind of being like, hey doll, how are you?
No, literally. I mean, that.
Keep that woman on edge because she, you know, the whole way through that meal, she was like, is she going to say something? And did you?
No, I never said anything. But I had a full. Right
To this
before
day, your mum doesn't know that.
No, I told my mom.
Oh.
She doesn't care, I guess.
I wonder what that's about.
I don't know. Her vibe is very
Damn right, Mahal.
she's like, we've been best friends since we were 5. There's good things, there's bad things.
Speak on that though.
I don't believe that.
I have this whole thing, like a friend's dad once said to me, don't trust someone if they don't have old friends. And I lived by that for so long. And I held on to so many fucking shit friendships because of that rule. And
Was
I
I
was
just
like,
gonna let people treat me like shit?
yeah. I was like, why the fuck did I listen to that random man for so many years?
Because you think you hear something from someone that you're like, wait, that's smart, that makes sense. And then you have like a reckoning with yourself, like, no, I was living. I have so many things that I heard growing up that I was, or I don't know, like when I was 15 or 16, my English teacher was like, you are gonna love life. This college, not for you. You're gonna love life. And so like every time things were really hard or like I didn't have
She
friends.
thought you were going to be like living in a van making TikToks about it.
Oh no, you know what he said? He said you're supposed to
This
like
is the teacher.
yeah, he was like, you are gonna like kill it at work. You're gonna have an amazing job. You like, but this whole thing isn't for you. So like anytime things weren't good, I was like, well, at least I'll have a good job one day. And
Yeah.
it's like, all right, but I'm still allowed to have fucking friends and have a good fun time.
No, you're not. No, you're fucking not. On that, slight divert, but a thought that I have is I want to shout at everyone that didn't go to uni and kind of like fucked it off knowing that it wasn't for them and then got really good jobs from it.
Yeah.
Because I have like so much admiration for that. I think like
I
at that
think-
age, because I was kind of like conditioned, probably by no one but myself, into going to uni because that was the route you were meant to take, or
Yeah.
like getting this vocational job, and people kind of be like, nah, not for me, and then became like very successful and having no debt for it.
Right? I just feel like
Love them.
there's all these made up rules.
Yes.
And guess what? They're made up.
Yeah.
And the rules aren't real. And you can make up a new rule for yourself
If you could make
tomorrow.
up, if you could make up one rule, what would it be?
For everyone to know that like you don't need to fucking get like grow up to fall in love to have a baby and like get married.
T.
I just feel like that's
Fuck heteronormative standards.
right.
Yeah. No, I was listening to a podcast. It's kind of political, but also kind of sociological, kind of like girly pop coded.
Cute.
Kind of like talking about, I don't know, love and life
Mhm.
as well, if you will. Anyway, today when I nearly fucking jumped out of my skin when I'm walking back from Edeka.
I'm
and
so
then
excited to hear
The
this.
title of the episode was Couples That Just Need to Break Up. And it was just like, you know, those couples that everyone knows one.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, guys, you just need to break up.
Yeah.
And the crux of the episode was couples that go into open relationships because they just need to break up.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, like it's kind
So
of like,
many people do that though.
Yeah.
So you're upset with this or no?
yeah, I'm like, just break up.
Yeah.
And her whole thing was like, just break up, stop. But kind of like,
Yeah.
because and she made
Oh,
a
so
very
you
good point.
agreed?
Yeah, 100%
Oh my
I agree.
God,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
I thought
yeah.
we were like
I'm
not
like, why
agreeing.
why are we going into open relationships?
Yeah.
When we
I
don't need
agree.
as the kind of like
Because people are-
clawing onto something from before, because do you know what you do? You drag other people into that. And they talked about in this podcast, I nearly jumped out my fucking
But
skin.
that
Shit.
is
Like,
actually that's what I want everyone to know.
Mm.
You don't need a partner to be happy. I think people are so scared to be alone.
Mm.
They feel so I think a lot of times when that happens is because people are so used to being in this relationship and it's so scary to be alone.
Mm.
And so like they will do anything to stay with this person, even though it's comfort, even though if it's not making them happy. And I feel like that's like one of the things that I wish everyone fucking knew. You're gonna be like, the longest relationship is with yourself. So like build on you
Love
and
that
loving
too.
you. It's just gonna be better for everyone if you love yourself first and you work on your relationship with you before anything else.
Someone's about to quote RuPaul, and I can feel it.
Thank you for listening, and please drop any comments, questions, suggestions, heartfelt messages, honestly, whatever you want, into the comments. If you want to be on the podcast, let me know. If you've got something to say, we want to hear it. Thank you, and see you soon.